Hey all, friendly neighborhood game master Zach Hall here. Unplanned video. I look incredibly blown out because on my other screen I've got two all white black text screens related to this big announcement from Wizards about the next version of Dungeons and Dragons that they're calling 1D&D because we're doing away with this whole idea of doing editions. And so this is what they've been rumored, or have, I think they've actually came out and said earlier this year that they were essentially creating a new, what they've always said and is still true, new versions of the core rulebook set for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition that would then be backward compatible with 5th edition adventures and supplements, but with new rules, probably way like focused on character creation and classes and all those stuff, updating all of those things while still being backwards compatible for 5th edition. The community has been calling it generally 5.5. Some people have been calling it 6th edition. It's definitely not 6th edition in, like, that's just being ignorant of everything going on. It is, they're calling it 1D&D. I colloquially online, it's still probably gonna be called 5.5 in the same way that 3.5 was backward compatible with 3 but updated rule books. They announced all of this during a Dungeon or Wizards presents, Wizard of the Coast presents, Dungeons and Dragons presents. I've not watched the video. I have a day job. I literally came back from running an errand and my Twitter feed was full of this 1D&D stuff. The first playtest material is out. We're going to look at that. But first, I wanted to look at the FAQ about 1D&D, just to like kind of level set. So they've got this video. It's a 6.5 minute trailer. I just Googled 1D&D playtest. It seems like they're starting to put most stuff on D&D Beyond. Now that D&D Beyond's owned by Wizard of the Coast, it is a Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons product. It's no longer like a third party thing that they have a licensing deal with. Um, you know, Jeremy Crawford's great. Love him to death. I'm not going to sit here and watch a 6.5 minute video. I'm imagining most of this is, so they've code named 1D&D. So that's not like the actual title. It'll still probably be like Dungeons and Dragons 5.5 or something like that. Come with new rules for D&D, a digital play experience to level up your tabletop gaming. And then there's physical and digital product bundling for Dragonlance. I do not care about Dragonlance. It's fine. Okay, so what is 1D&D? Codename for the next generation of Dungeons and Dragons, bring together 3 initiatives that will shape the future of the game. D&D rules. This takes what we love about 5th edition and updates the rules of the game to reflect feedback we heard from players. D&D Beyond will be the platform for your digital D&D collection content and tools. And then a digital play experience. In early development, D&D Digital will offer an immersive player experience, rich creation tools for dungeon masters, and a connected space for DMs and players to get together and play D&D. So D&D Beyond is going to be where the content and tools live, and then they're creating their own virtual tabletop that will have a D&D Beyond integration like built in. It will live on top of D&D Beyond, where in addition to like your character sheets and the encounter builder that was, recently, like within the last like 9 months or so of D&D Beyond, you can actually play with more automation, virtual tabletop basically. So good luck to all to roll 20. That's basically probably it. Good luck to roll 20. Like, I mean, roll 20 is huge for 5th edition. I guess if you're already there, um I, it would make sense for Wizards to just stop releasing content there, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had an exclusive window for their own virtual tabletop experience that like you can get the stuff only at D&D Digital and D&D Beyond for a month, and maybe even longer before it's available on other platforms. Who knows? Um, Is 1D&D introducing a new edition of Dungeons & Dragons? It's bigger than that. 1D&D will usher in the next generation of D&D with new and more comprehensive versions of the core rulebooks that millions of players have enjoyed the past decade. So again, it's 5.5. Rules will be backwards compatible with 5th edition adventures and supplements, and offer players and DMs new options and opportunities for adventure. The evolution of 5th edition has shown us it's less important to create new editions of the game and more important to grow and expand the game you love with each new product. Red. Our market share is so huge. We don't want to piss anybody of our current play base off by splitting our audience between 5th edition and a new uncompatible 6th edition. And we don't see that changing ever. So we're just going to create a forever edition based on 5th, but we're just going to kind of evolve on it with new rule books. Yeah, that's basically what's happening here. What does backwards compatible mean? It means that 5th edition adventures and supplements will work in 1D&D. For example, if you want to run Curse of Strahd in 1D&D, that book will work with new versions of the core rulebooks. What they really mean is that the adventure will work, but you'll probably and you could run it with the stat blocks that are in it or the DCs that are in it, but really you're probably going to want to be swapping out like for like 5th edition monsters for 5.5 monsters, because I have a feeling there's going to be some power creep. And obviously, like, you know, it's going to be balanced. They're going to be balanced for different things. But it means if you already own Curse of Strahd, you can run it with just the Curse of Strahd book and the new Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Bestiary. Probably. 90% sure. I'd bet money on it. What's changing? There will be many fundamental updates to D&D that we will collect your feedback on. In the upcoming Unearthed Arcana playtest content, you will see proposed updates to character backgrounds, races. Still going with races. Not going to change that, huh? Okay. Let's see what feedback says. Classes. Interesting. Feats. Definitely interesting. Information presentation. Sure. And more. Ultimately, the answer to what will change depends on what we hear from you throughout 1D&D playtests. New core rulebooks are expected to be released in 2024. So you got 18 to 24 months before new stuff comes out. Where can I find out more? To keep up to date, sign up for D&D Beyond. I had to log into my D&D Beyond account and like claim the playtest material before I had access to the PDF. So I would D&D Beyond's becoming their digital publisher hub. So like I imagine the playtest material and all the feedback is going to be run through D&D Beyond. So sign into D&D Beyond, hop into your account settings, and update your email preferences to receive communications from D&D Beyond. You can expect news on 1D&D roughly monthly. I hate that copy ending with two leaves at the end. So how do I access it? It's through D&D Beyond on the 1D&D claim page. There will be a survey link in the compendium. Surveys will be available roughly 2 weeks after a new playtest packet has been released and remain live for 2 weeks. It seems crazy to me that there's enough players out there, and I mean this for both Paizo, anybody running playtests. The playtest period is so short. And I know they got to move fast because it takes a lot of time, but really like 2 weeks to ingest and try to understand the material, plan playtest stuff, and then you have 2 weeks to play it and play it enough to have feedback on it and then provide the feedback. Just seems crazy to me as a person that might play once in a period of 2 weeks. I could my default assumption for a 2 week period is that I'm not going to play at all. I'd try to play once every 2 weeks. So that would literally mean you'd almost have to be, I guess in this instance, you were scheduling stuff with the intention of play testing it. if you're interested in playtesting some of this stuff and you want to do it with like me or other viewers, let me know in the comments. Is that kind of thing that like we should be interested in? Like, do I need to like set up a Discord or something, or like we can just set up a game where we can playtest new material together? That we can talk about it. That'd be interesting. So every month, new playtest content will release on D&D Beyond. Hooray, new content for me. Each new playtest will cover rules on a different subject, from player classes to subclasses to game mechanics. Playtest will continue at least through the end of 2023. That seems wild that they could be running playtests through the end of next year, write the material, lay it out, get the art in, send it to a printer overseas, get tens of thousands of books printed and shipped, and then like all that happens in 2024. Like obviously you're working on things and they'll front load the really important mechanic heavy stuff, I would imagine, but seems wild. So if you want to play test but don't have a group to play with, or your current D&D group isn't interested, the D&D Beyond Discord and D&D Discord both have channels that you can use to join. Okay. What's the D&D digital play experience? In early development, a virtual play space that allows DMs to create truly immersive campaigns and players to enjoy a D&D experience where you offload a lot of the rules referencing, so it's a VTT. D&D digital play experience is intended to be an immersive digital experience. It will be integrated with D&D Beyond, which will continue to offer tools for reference and play. Whatever tools you love using, keep using them. Our goal is to make the best digital play experience for D&D. Just like everything else in D&D, everything is optional, sure, but probably as a business, part of making their product the best digital play experience for D&D probably going to look like early or exclusive access to content that you can't get elsewhere, because that's the determining factor. Everything is in pre-alpha. Oh, they do show it off apparently a little bit, so check out maybe the presentation video from earlier to look at it, but it's pre-alpha, so probably mock-ups extremely early. Closed beta later next year. Sure, yeah. So they have specifically priced bundles that will give you a physical copy and a D&D Beyond digital copy of books. Let's just click on this and see what the price is like. Oh, that's a deluxe edition. No, okay. So now, just like Paizo, if you pay D&D Wizards of the Coast directly, you can buy it for $60 to get both the physical and a version, not even a PDF, just unlocked the reference material and monsters and stat blocks and stuff from it on D&D Beyond. Plus you have to pay shipping, which is $13. So you're paying a total with taxes and shit, you're paying $75+ for both the book and a physical book, and then D&D Beyond, not even a PDF. And you get early access to it. 2 weeks-ish. The release date's December 6th, but you get early access to content for 2 weeks on D&D Beyond. That's what I'm saying, guys. Exclusive windows. This is essentially an adventure for 1 to 1st level in Dragonlance, which is not a setting I've interacted with at all. Okay. So interesting. I think this is all pretty predictable, but definitely interesting. Okay, let's dive into the playtest material. This is a PDF. You can get it from D&D Beyond. So this first month's Unearthed Arcana for 1 D&D playtest is about character origins. The material here uses the rules in the 24. See, they're having to call it out. The 2014 Player's Handbook, except where noted. Character races. These are the race options being considered for the Player's Handbook with updated design. You'll also see the fun role a character's background is going to have in helping flesh out the character's origin. Starting languages. Apparently there's feats in here. So first level feats. First level feat. Interesting. Wonder. Where have I seen that before? And then there's a glossary. Damn, how many pages is this? How many pages is this? Why is it not showing me? Ooh, 21 pages. Not small. Okay. This is playtest material. Power level. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than options in the 2014 Player's Handbook. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before official publication. This means an option could be more or less powerful in its final form. Then what? I mean, I guess... Listen. But isn't that kind of what we're trying to playtest? Right? Am I crazy? It feels like they just said... We like, I don't know. I guess because this is basically like, they're probably just trying to get a sense of, do you like whatever we're about to read is? And like, we can adjust power levels, but like, just as a whole, do you like this whole process at all? Which I guess makes sense, but it just feels, that felt weird to read. After choosing your character's class, it's time to consider the character's origin. After the class, who are the character's ancestors? How did the character spend their years leading up to a life of adventure? So to help answer these questions, you choose 3 things for the character: a race, a background, and a language. It seems wild that like people are... I'm not like... I want this hobby to be as inclusive as possible, and it just feels weird that they haven't adjusted the language for race to be something different. I really like Ancestry and think it makes a lot of sense for Pathfinder 2e. It's wild that they didn't do something similar here. So a character's race represents their ancestry and confers game traits to the character. Character's background is a collection of characteristics that represent the place and occupation that are most formative for the character. The character's origin overview table lists the traits your character gains from race and background. Traits. So creature type, size, speed. Speed isn't changing. Size didn't change. It seems like, why is there an asterisk on that? This might be new, a creature type. Like they might be adjusting to like, not every player character is going to be a humanoid. Lifespan, special traits, collection of abilities. Yeah. Look at this. Your background is going to grant ability score bonuses. This is good. This is good. This is one of the things that drew me to Pathfinder in the first place, was the frustration that in 5th edition, the background did nothing. It like gave you a tool proficiency and a skill proficiency, but with like binary proficiency, you're either are or you aren't. It felt so arbitrary and not very well representative or meaningful on the actual mechanics. But now you get an ability score bonus. So your background grants a 2+ bonus to one ability score and a +1 bonus to a different one. I wonder if that means they're ditching, like if they're going the Pathfinder route of like, you start at a certain, like all your ability scores start at a certain level, and then your options that you pick change them at all. So you get 2 skill proficiencies from a background. Every background gives a tool proficiency. You get a language from your background. Each background also provides a first level feat and equipment. Race and background together help bring your character's backstory into focus, and they distinguish the character from other members of the same class. For example, 2 characters might be members of the fighter class, But if one is a human guard and the other is a dwarf gladiator, the two bring different capabilities and flavor to the class. This is good. This is good. I'm not the type, like, you're not going to, except where it's like a business thing, you're not going to see me shitting on one D&D 5.5 rules for the sake of thinking, like, trying to protect Pathfinder 2e. Like, I just want more people playing the hobby. Now, if I think it's a good thing that 5.5 might bring some of the things that people like about Pathfinder 2 to Dungeons and Dragons players. And people have been clamoring for this stuff for a long time, which I think is part of the reason why Paizo was smart to get second edition out the door with the things that it does. Like, I think those are good things. So character races. So these are the ones being considered for the player's handbook. Human Ardling? I don't know what that is. Dragonborn, dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, orc, and tiefling. So orc and ardling are new to the player's handbook, I think. And like there isn't like half versions. I would imagine that like those might be backgrounds or maybe feat to like create, I don't know. So thanks to the magical workings of the multiverse, humanoids of different kinds sometimes have children together. For example, folk who have a human parent and an orc or an elf parent are particularly common. If you'd like to play the child of such a wondrous pairing, choose 2 race options that are humanoid to represent your parents, and then determine which of those race options provides your game traits. You can then, so you pick which race gives you your size, speed, and special traits, and then you can mix and match visual characteristics of the 2 options. So if your character has a halfling and a gnome parent, you might choose halfling for your game traits, but then decide your character has the pointed ears of a gnome, and then determine the average of the 2 option lifespan traits to figure out how long a character might live. Sure, that sounds fine. Humans, we're going to skip flavor text here for, except for the Ardling, because I don't know what they are. So humans are humanoid. They are medium or small. You can pick medium or small, chosen when you select this race. 30 feet speed, 80-year average lifespan. So you get these special traits. You're resourceful. You gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. Okay, we gotta look at, I'm assuming the glossary, like, I don't want to get spoiled, but at the same time, like, we got to check out what these things are, right? Inspiration. The main way a character gains inspiration is by rolling a 20 for a D20 test. The DM can, when you have inspiration, you can expend it to give yourself advantage on a D20 test. You have to decide to do so before rolling the die. So it is still what I thought it was. Humans just automatically get advantage on any D20 roll that they want every long rest. They also get proficiency in a skill of their choice. They also gain the skilled feat or another first level feat of your choice. So humans are really leaning into the flexibility thing. Ardlings are supernatural beings who are either born on the upper planes or have one or more ancestors. What's the name of that race currently in 5th edition? The like higher planar beings. Shit. Yasha from Critical Role Campaign 2 was one, right? I'm drawing a blank. Let me know in the comments. No, wait, this is weird. An Ardling has a head resembling that of an animal, typically one with virtuous association. So depending on the fur, Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers, or supple bare skin. The Ardling's celestial legacy determines the animal it resembles. They also gain a measure of magical power, as well as the ability to manifest spectral wings. So their moral and ethical outlook is self-determined, not fixed by the ancestry. So you can either be exalted, heroic champions of the chaotic good planes. You can be heavenly from the lawful good planes, or idyllic from the neutral good planes. You can choose to be medium or small. You get angelic flight, bonus action sprout spectral wings for a moment and fly up to a number of feet equal to your speed. Or halt your movement if you were falling when you do it. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. That's kind of a lot. So you then have suggested animals that your head is the shape of, depending on your legacy. And then you get access to some innate spellcasting. Interesting. Okay, that's cool. Really cool. So you got Dragonborn. You got to be medium. You then get breath weapon determined by your draconic ancestor. Dwarves are medium. Interesting. Humans can choose to be medium or small. Dwarf, nope. You're medium. Dark vision, resistance to poison damage and advantage. Dwarven toughness. So basically you get, this is basically the toughness feat. You just automatically get it. Hit point max increases by 1 by default, and extra 1 every time you gain a level. You get tool proficiency with 2 options. As a bonus action, you can gain Tremor Sense for 10 minutes. You can use that equal to your proficiency bonus. I would have loved to see them redo proficiency. It seems like they obviously haven't. It's still a binary, like you're either trained in it or you're not. Maybe the math is going to be a little bit different. Proficiency, is it more complicated in Pathfinder 2e? Yes. But it feels like proficiency just ends up not mattering all that much. Because you end up pretty skilled. Like, I feel like a lot of characters end up trained in everything that you kind of need to be, and with access to so many advantages, and because there's not enough rules in 5th edition. In 5th edition, they might fix it for 5.5 or 1D&D, that DMs just default to providing advantage in a situation instead of, like in Pathfinder, the math is tight enough to where a circumstance bonus of +1 is meaningful, and that's enough, where you don't have to dip into things like advantage, disadvantage, which the range of results is just so big that it feels like proficiency in 5th edition just doesn't feel impactful. Unless you're really trying to do something you are not good at. And by not good, it's like you have a negative modifier anyway, and you're not proficient in it. But again, like, your bard spends like 1 action doing a cantrip, and all of a sudden you've got advantage, and like it's really up to the dice as opposed to really being influenced by what your character sheet says. So then here inside of Elven, you get pick a lineage: Drow, High Elf, or Wood Elf. Elves are medium, Fey ancestry, all that kind of tracks. Flavor text. Gnome are small. You have dark vision. Advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. That's really powerful. It didn't seem like it when I was playing 5th edition a ton, because that was just what I knew. But now it just seems really kind of half of your saving throws. In some of the big ones, intelligence, not so much. But wisdom, for sure, and charisma to a lesser extent, those are big saving throws. And you just automatically get 2 chances at succeeding instead of like a flat bonus. So like, I can go ahead and tell you, I mean, we can let's keep scrolling past like the races. The way they're doing this seems fine. Huge props for making backgrounds beneficial and like actually impactful on your stats and mechanics. Separating away, it's hard to tell without looking at classes, but the fact that your background is basically giving you your free stat bonuses off, moving those off of ancestries and into your backgrounds makes a ton of sense. I think I would have rather seen them do that in classes, or like your background gives you like a +1 to something, to one thing, and then your class has one or two main stats you can pick from. Pick one and you get a +2 in that. But it's possible they're redoing the whole thing and your class will still give you a bonus. Here we go. So since 2014, characters have received ability score increases from several sources, either from a race that has the ability score increase trait or from the ability score rules in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So like basically the test balloons for stuff like this. And like they're kind of fixing problematic shit, like making all dwarves not charismatic and things like that. If you make a character using one of those older sources and get ability score increases from it, the character doesn't also get the... Yeah, okay, never mind. I thought they were going to try to explain some of their reason for moving it to background, or maybe tell you where it was going to get other stuff. Yeah, so, I mean, I think I still prefer... Me personally, I still prefer the Pathfinder way of doing it. But even just opening up to backgrounds where these are so customizable, you can make one on the fly really quickly. There will be a ton of third party and like drive-through RPG supplements with just bukus of 5.5 backgrounds pre-built for you, but seems like they did a decent amount of them, and glancing through these all makes sense, and you can pick one if you want to min-max, like if you want to optimize your build, you can pick a background that works for you. I still would have preferred like sometimes you're going to want to have a background that is surprising, like, you know, I was a soldier, but now I'm a cleric. But I guess that doesn't really matter because clerics in D&D are like frontline tanks with melee weapons, so it would still work. But I think you know what I mean. So languages, I don't really care about. Feats. This section offers a collection of first level feats, which are special features not tied to a single class. At first level, your character gains a feat from the character's background. Oh yeah, wasn't really paying attention to feats. Sailor gets Tavern Brawler, Soldier, Savage Attacker, Urchin, Lucky, Sage, Magic Initiate for Arcane, Laborer, Tough, Pilgrim, Healer. Okay, cool. So they are just telling you humans get an extra first level feat because they flexible as hell. If a feat is repeatable, you can take it more than once. Yep. So alert, yeah, I remember that. Crafter, first level feat. You get a tool proficiency with 3 different artisan tools. You get a discount when buying non-magical items, and you can craft things 20% faster. Okay. Healing, if you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it and tend to a creature within 5 of you as action. Then that creature can expend one of its hit dice. You roll the dice. A number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. That's cool. And then whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or with this feat battle medicine, you can re-roll the die. If it rolls a 1, you have to use their new roll. Cool. Lucky points or lucky... You get a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. You can spend the points on the benefits below, and you regain lucky points. That is so broken. That is wild. At level 1, if you get the lucky feat, so is it halflings? Halflings, humans are going to want to take the lucky feat with their special thing. And then what background did I see got lucky? I saw a background that gave you the lucky feat. I'm pretty sure, right? I'm not just dreaming that. I said it out loud, I feel like. Urchins. So if you're an human, or yeah, a human or an urchin, you're gonna want to get the lucky feat. Or if you're not human, you're gonna, and you can make an urchin build work. That's insane. 3 opportunities to give yourself advantage or impose disadvantage on someone else's attack roll. So the disadvantages can only be used on attack rolls, but that makes sense. Like, shit. That's so broken. This is why I don't like the advantage disadvantage system in 5e. They lean on it too hard because they don't want to introduce scaling bonuses. It's too complicated for the system. It would feel unwieldy, but it means advantage just feels bad. It just doesn't feel very true. I don't like it. I don't like that. Advantage and disadvantage in 5th edition is almost enough to just, I still really wouldn't want to play in it. It's too swingy. Too swingy. Even if 5th edition or 1D&D 5.5 took everything that's great about the Pathfinder 2 character creation process, the fact that, like, yes, it feels like the whole process feels more mechanically impactful on the character sheet. I like that. It seems like feats they're not optional anymore, because people forget that technically feats were optional variant rule, but just like that lucky, that's wild. And because in the current edition, it's just once, right? Like if halfling luck just once per day. And then if you took the feat, I think it was just a flat 3 times a day. Yeah, that's wild. Not a fan. Musician. You can play a song during a short or long rest and give inspiration. The number of allies you can affect equals your proficiency bonus. So assuming you start with a party of 4, which is what they're going to assume, you inspire your allies, not yourself. Savage attacker. When you take the attack action and hit a target with a weapon, you can roll the damage dice twice. That's a first level feat from a background? I feel like that was like a high level fighter and barbarian ability. Interesting. Oh, Magic Initiate gets you 2 cantrips from their the determined spell list. Tracks. Tavern Brawler. So you get an enhanced unarmed strike, where instead of doing 1 damage, it now does bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier. You can re-roll 1s when you do that. When you hit a creature with your unarmed strike, you can deal damage and also push it 5 feet away. You can use this benefit once per turn, and it's optional. Then you can wield furniture as a weapon, using the rules of the Great Club for small or medium furniture, and the rules of the club for tiny feet. Yeah. I mean, I like this because it means that this is going to cut out people who take a 1 level dip into monk for better unarmed strike. Because I always wanted to play a non-magical unarmed brawler, and that is the fact that you can pick this as a human or just get this from a background. You can write a custom background that gives you that. That's pretty cool. They got a kind of like a new term for a D20 test, which is basically anytime you roll a D20. Ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. If you roll a 1, the test automatically fails regardless of modifiers. If you roll a 20, it automatically succeeds. Rolling a 20 doesn't bypass limitations on the test, such as range and line of sight. It only bypasses bonuses and penalties. That's problematic, because that applies to ability checks. Automatically succeed. Like, automatic success with a 20 in 5th edition used to only be applied in attacks, right? Like, your attack automatically succeeded if you rolled a 20. But if you now crit on a acrobatic check to do something really outlandish, DMs used to be able to use, well, listen, like, just because you critted on your athletics check doesn't mean that you automatically succeed because you're trying to jump 100 feet straight up in the air to jump over this wall. That was still impossible. You're now kind of forcing DMs to like create really firm boundaries of like, hey, I'm not even going to let you roll for that, because even rolling a natural 20, there is no modifier in the world that can make that possible. And even rolling it like, but now they have to say, and rolling a D20 and you critting would like break the truth of the game. Yeah. So now critical hits, weapons, and unarmed strikes. The attack's also a critical hit, which means you roll the damage dice twice. So no more doubling the 1 damage. You just roll the damage dice twice. So when you're grappled, speed is now 0 and you can't change. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. The grappler can drag or carry you, but the grappler is slowed. Long rest, 8 hours. So at the end of a long rest, you regain all lost hit points. Half of your hit die. Okay, I don't think anything else is really gonna... Yeah, okay, that's basically it. Okay, so final thoughts on all this. A new version of D&D is a good thing for the hobby. Moving ability scores off of your race choice and onto backgrounds is better, but I still don't think it's best. I still think your class should impact your ability scores, though it doesn't. We'll wait and see if it does. But assuming that ability score increases and bonuses are the same, which I have every reason to think it would be, it's now determined by your background and not your class, which not my idea, not what I would have done. Everything else seems totally fine. I still like, I mean, yeah, you heard me. Advantage and disadvantage just seems really, it feels bad. There's way too much access to it. The lucky feat is wildly overpowered. It's even more overpowered than the 5th edition 2014 version of the lucky feat. And I feel like I don't go on those like forums or subreddits anymore, but I feel like the lucky feat was usually house ruled or just banned at a lot of tables because of how frustrating the lucky feat can be. The new race seems really interesting, but like that's fine. I don't feel like it was filling a void that had to be there, but it probably covers a lot of animal bases. Like if in the core player's handbook, if you want to play kind of a humanoid animal, you can through that one race, and throwing on top of the fact that you're probably gonna you should be this alignment or behave a certain way. They say it's you pick as the player, but gives you some guidelines. It's interesting. I like what they're kind of leaning at. Like they're leaning into feats. Feats are going to be an integral part of the system. Like that seems obvious by the way that they're handing out first level feats with your background. I wish, I feel like background would have been just as impactful if it was just the feat. And maybe just a +1 ability score bonus, and then the +2 was up to your class. I feel like that'd be my preference. I don't feel the need to playtest this because not enough seems different. Like the feats is going to be the most mechanically different thing, and feel like I can give my feedback on that without actually having to play test it. I will probably continue to look at all the monthly playtest material for Dungeons and Dragons because I'm going to still run into people that want to play Dungeons and Dragons and not other games. And I still know the 5th edition rules really, really well. And so I feel like I could absolutely fire up a 5th edition game with 20 minutes of prep for character creation, and then just go and be able to run a game. And there is something to that. So any new version I'm going to keep up with, also because like it's interesting for the hobby, and good to kind of keep an eye on, a pulse on. I don't view, like, are they technically competitors? Yes, but like I'm confident and settled in the fact that I play Pathfinder 2 at home and make content generally around Pathfinder 2, or like speak from my own experiences playing Pathfinder 2 and prep Pathfinder 2. This doesn't feel like it's gonna take away any market share from Pathfinder 2 at all. Feel like I can kind of just tell just by advantage and disadvantage, unless they come out with just a ton of more intensive black and white rulings for their rules in their player's handbook and the Dungeon Master's guide. DMs who are frustrated by 5th edition are still going to be frustrated by 1 D&D and are going to look at Pathfinder as an alternative, and that's probably not going to change. So what are your thoughts? Make sure you go to dndbeyond.com to get the playtest material if you want it. I'm not going to direct link to the material because I know Wizards of the Coast wouldn't want me to, but I bet if you did some Googling, you could find someone that has. If you don't want to give over your contact information to Wizards of the Coast, I wouldn't blame you. Yeah, didn't see anything that really wowed me or like completely won me over. Backgrounds is good. It's much better. Really still surprised that they're still continuing to use the term races. And that might just be a differentiating thing. They're like, we don't want to seem like we're really, I don't know, seems different, or definitely seems like a bad call. But anyway, that's it. That's it for me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, agree with me, disagree with me, hit the like button anyway. It helps me out. If you're not subscribed, you can subscribe. I make content mainly around Pathfinder 2, and kind of made my thing is live reacting to stuff I've never looked at before. If you are interested in me looking at the World Guide, which is a new Lost Omens book for Pathfinder 2, which is coming out very, very soon, let me know. I do have access to it already and have kind of poked around. I don't know enough of Galarian lore to really like sink my teeth into it and speak intelligently about it. But if you would like a video on it, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Roll well, everybody. Peace.